We're back for the second Cowboys Report video of the day, as promised. We've got some more trade rumors on the Cowboys. One big name in particular now being linked to Dallas. The NFL trade deadline, less than 24 hours away. The Cowboys have made deadline or at least in-season September or beyond moves in 5 of the past 6 years. Will they make one this year? We'll find out. We will have live trade deadline coverage for you on Tuesday. Still a little bit TBD as to when exactly we will go live, so make sure you are subscribed and make sure those notifications are set to all so you don't miss any of our up-to-the-minute trade deadline coverage live here on the Cowboys Report. The big name now linked to Dallas, again, it's not the first time this has happened, is Jaylon Johnson. Benjamin Allbright, who's a Denver-based reporter who gets some scoops, also maybe tricked a few times, but there is at least enough credibility there to make it worth mentioning as opposed to like, oh yeah, fan side has suggested. There's more to it here. And this is also not the first time Allbright's mentioned this, by the way. He's kind of mentioned it elsewhere on social media. Johnson of the Bears, Jaylon Johnson. The Cowboys are among the teams allegedly interested in the Bears' corner. Now, Johnson's in the final year of his contract. He's going to be doing a massive deal this offseason. Honestly, it might be as much as Trayvon Diggs got. That's the caliber of corner we're dealing with here. When healthy, Johnson has been more of the lockdown guy. Yeah, he'd be such a great fit with Trayvon Diggs if you were to retain him. Not sure that would happen. Worth mentioning, you're fine right now at corner. One more injury, and you're exactly where you were last year, which is concerning. So some teams interested. The 3 teams mentioned by Allbright. The Dallas Cowboys, the Niners, who I think are very much working the phones, trying to find a corner, and the Bills, who Kaiir Elam can't even play for them. He was a first-round pick, and they're decimated. They lost Trey White. They need cornerback help, so it definitely makes sense those 2 teams would call, and Dallas also apparently interested in Jaylon Johnson. That might be more at the right price, though, for the Cowboys, or maybe even being used as leverage, which certainly would not be the first time. Jaylon Johnson this year, per PFF, has been a lockdown corner. Missed some time with injuries, to be clear, or fair, I should say. But he's been a baller. Under 43% completion rate. That is special coverage stats right there. 120 yards total. I mean, you guys can do the math. Really high. The 1 TD allowed came in the red zone against the Chargers last night. Oh, no. 2 INTs, 4 pass breakups. Dude has been a baller. I do think the trade cost would be more expensive than what the Cowboys would likely be willing to give up. Maybe you could get him for a third, and a player like a Nashawn Wright or whoever to try to juice it a little bit, or another conditional pick in 2025 if you re-sign him. But it might be second-round pick value because Johnson, if you don't re-sign him, he'll get a third-round pick in theory in free agency, so you're already kind of dealing with that at the moment in terms of the bare minimum threshold. So I do think it would be expensive. More on this, including some pros and cons. But would you trade for Jaylon Johnson? Y for yes, N for no. It's today's pinned comment. If the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there, type in Y or N. Some pros and cons here. Let's start with the positives, right? You're adding an impact football player. Jaylon Johnson, I think, is one of the bigger, better available names who might end up being moved this year. You help your depth at corner, which we will come back to here momentarily. And don't we all trust Dan Quinn to help maximize an addition, maybe more so than Mike? I'm feeling better about Mike right now. I'm feeling better about it, but I think we all still trust Dan Quinn more. The cons, though, right? He'd be expensive to get. He probably would be a rental, and I think deep down the Cowboys would prefer to get a rental or at least a player they don't have to have on the books in 2024 because it limits their flexibility to a certain extent, which I think is overblown, but it's how they operate. It also would really limit your 2024 draft capital. Remember, you have no 4th, no 5th, and no 6th. You're probably going to get a 5th and 6th back in the comp pick process, which matters, but that's not a guarantee right now, and you'd be even lighter for a team that loves to draft. They do love them picks. Back to the depth of corner. Deron Bland, I might have to make him CB1, by the way. He's playing out of his damn mind. He's on pace for an all-pro season. Seriously. Stephon Gilmore is holding up pretty well despite his age. Jordan Lewis played every snap last night, or yesterday. He's played quite well. But if you lose one of those guys, knock on wood, you're playing Nashawn Wright, who was terrible. Eric Scott and Noah Igbignogany can't get activated right now. Israel Mukwam, a special teamer only. You're thin if you lose one more guy. That'd be losing 2 starters, and that's not really fair because there are very few teams at any position group that can afford to lose 2 starters. Like, oh yeah, we're so great. No, you're going to be thin no matter what. Across the board, any team and any group. But it is at least worth mentioning since you've already lost one. In the end, I think Johnson is maybe the biggest gettable name. You're not going to get Patrick Surtain. Never in the cards. I'm sorry. I also don't know, and I have my doubts, if Dallas will do anything this big. I wouldn't be shocked if they offered that one of their 7th-round picks for some pieces. Christian Fulton bounced back in a big way this week for the Titans. They might not be as big of sellers now since Will Levis played really well for them, by the way, against the Falcons. Kenny Moore is still good in Indy if you want another nickel option to keep Bland on the outside no matter what. But I'm just not sure. We'll see what happens on Tuesday. Chance they make a move, but I think your percentages are maybe more like 20-ish% at the moment. Now, today's show was made possible by Prize Picks. We talked about how I'm on a bit of a heater right now with the flex play the past couple weeks. We'll talk about my Monday Night Football picks, courtesy of our Bears now host, who's even on an even bigger heater than I have been. All on Prize Picks. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's you against the numbers. You're not battling thousands of other players, the pros, the sharks. You pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and then you watch those winnings roll in. You can make your picks in a matter of seconds and flip $10 into $250 with just a few taps. The Monday Night Football picks here. More than Jared Goff passing yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown, as of now, sounds like he's going to play. We'll see if that's a cold take in a couple hours or not. Raiders secondary is kind of bad. Devontae Adams, more than receiving yards. At some point, he's got to be featured in that offense. Probably won't be traded, by the way. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, less than rushing yards. 70.5 is a lot for him with the way he's used in Detroit. Go to prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. Link will be in the comments and the description. Again, that's prizepicks.com/CLNS and use code CLNS for the first deposit match up to $100. Let's talk offensive line, which I would love to acquire, and I would love to find a way to, have success and get a piece there. Even Jerry Jones wants it, but that's a lot easier said than done. Blogging the Boys, which is trade for Cleveland, which would help the offensive line. Now, he's been banged up the past 2 games, which is significant. He's not played. Dalton Reisner's played well in his absence. The Vikings are now in a really weird spot. Kirk Cousins, unfortunately, out for the year, tore his Achilles. It's going to be Jaron Hall at quarterback at BYU. They have an option at left guard. Cleveland's in the final year of his contract. This is the type of guy you should call about. See if you can get him. Might not happen, but it's worth calling. He's a good run blocker. He's not the best pass protector, but knowing the reality of the situation, that you will not have Tyron Smith for every game this year. It's just not going to happen. He's already missed 3 again this year, which is the minimum he's missed from, last 5-6 years, something like that. He's going to miss time. So why not call about Cleveland? Solid run blocker, little bit high in the pressures and hits and sacks allowed back in 2022. I don't know what he wowould go for. He's a starting caliber offensive lineman. And those dudes are really hard to trade for. Because if you're Minnesota and you're curious about, hey, how is Jaron Hall going to be the guy or not? You don't want to take away his offensive line. Because then you can't really evaluate him very well. It's other than preseason stuff, right? So I don't know if he's really available. But I'd call and figure it out. Because your offensive line, it's just not healthy enough. You're never going to have Tyron Smith out there. And Cleveland could also play some left tackle. We played at Boise State if you had to. And the Cowboys do love their Boise boys. But you could always put Tyler Smith over at left tackle and play Cleveland at left guard if Tyron misses more time. I'd call about it. I don't know if he's available. Don't know what the cost would be. Might just be a late day 2, early day 3 pick or day 3 pick and change. But I'd call. That's what good teams do. So name a player who you want to trade for. Sound off in the comment section right now. Any player you want to get. Keep it realistic, but go let me know down in the comments section. Let's talk a linebacker trade here. Is this as big of a need as what it was 2 weeks ago? I'm not so sure. Linebacker, understandably so, and I think it still is, has been mentioned as a position of need. However, Marquise Bell is breaking out. He's been awesome. So the 4 names we've spent our most time on here at off-ball linebacker, right? Azeez Al-Shaair, Josey Jewell. Tennessee might not be selling as much now. Denver might not be selling as much now. Jordan Hicks, I think Minnesota might sell more. Minnesota's been a roller coaster of like, they're going to sell. Ooh, they've won some games with the Niners. Oh, there goes Kirk Cousins. Now they should sell again. That's why the deadline should be 2 weeks later, by the way. Give more time to actually identify who's available, who's not available. And Frankie Luvo, fun addition for Carolina. They won, but they're still going to sell. We'll talk more about Marquise Bell's impact here. But prediction time. Will the Cowboys make a trade? 1 for yes, 0 for no. Still want to hear your thoughts. I think we'll see mostly zeros, but sound off for me in the comments section. The emergence of Marquise Bell might just end up being a big deal for the Cowboys. Now, I don't know if I fully trust him at this stage in terms of being a run stopper. And in fact, the almost double his snaps have come in coverage or blitzing as opposed to run stopping. It's a very unusual ratio, even for a team that is going to run or see as many pass plays as that. It's not that number for Damone Clark. It was not that number for Leighton Vander Esch before he ended up going down earlier this season. That was almost a 1-to-1 ratio. This one is almost 2-to-1. It's a big difference there. I don't know if he's been told of as an every down run stopper, but as a coverage linebacker, he's been awesome. No play sticks out more to me, and once the All-22 is finally posted, I'll try to clip it and put it on Twitter. Marquise Bell's in coverage on Tutu Atwell, who's like a 4-3 receiver or a low 4 forward receiver, and they're running a crosser. And Marquise Bell stays with him, which should not happen and end up being an incomplete pass. A linebacker should not stay with a receiver, especially a speedy one on an underneath crossing route. That's rare. Marquise Bell has been awesome in coverage this year. I think he's going to be a piece of this team long term. Maybe even go back to the pure Jaylon Curse role, which also if you look at the Jaylon Curse stats up here right now, the usage for Curse is very similar from a snap count differentiation to the usage of Marquise Bell. They're both kind of hybrid linebackers in the end. Curse is a safety. He'll play more deep stuff, but he plays a lot of time in the box right there. The usage is as a big dime, big nickel look. I love what Marquise Bell has done. If you want to find a thumper, okay, that's fine. Maybe that could still be Rashaan Evans' role. He played 7 snaps last week. I don't know if linebacker is as big of a need as I thought it was going to be when Vander Esch first went down.